Krista Scott-Dixon. Some quick housekeeping first. Today's session will be recorded. If you have any audio or video problems, or if you want to rewatch today's session, all recordings and registrations are available on rlpnetwork.com under the training tab. During the webinar, if you have a question for Phil or Krista, please use the Q&A feature. The Q&A icon is at the bottom of your desktop screen or in the three-dot menu at the bottom right of your mobile device. Please note, Q&A is where we take questions from. Next to the Q&A icon, you will see the chat icon, and you can use the chat feature to share any comments or observations with your colleagues. So ensure your chat response is set to all attendees, and then we will all see what you have to share. So let's give that a try now. Use the chat and share where you are joining us from in our great, big, beautiful country. Let's look at some of these responses. Where are folks coming from? Oh, we've got a Toronto, a Canada. Well, great. That helps. Ottawa, Keswick, another Toronto, Burlington, lots of Ontario, Mississauga. Let's hear it for West Coast.
Beach.
That's right. More Keswick. Awesome. More Toronto. Okay. Lots of folks from all different parts of the country eventually join us here. Welcome, everyone. Wonderful to have you, and thank you for attending today. Our guest, Dr. Krista Scott-Dixon, PhD, is a nutrition and behavioral change thought leader, internationally recognized for her ability to help real people with real lives, that's you and me, not J-Lo, embrace the master the complex issues of nutrition, health, and lifestyle improvement. In her role as Director of Curriculum with Precision Nutrition, a global leader in personalized, evidence-based nutrition and lifestyle programming, Krista develops the curriculum for men's and women's health and nutrition coaching programs, educational guides, and training. Krista has authored and contributed to the development of an extensive list of texts, academic publications, book chapters, articles, and reports on nutrition, health, and performance. And she is an in-demand speaker who has shared her insights with organizations and businesses around the world. Krista holds a doctorate of women's studies from York University in Toronto, in addition to counseling certifications, and is currently pursuing her master's degree in counseling psychology from Yorkville University in New Brunswick. We are delighted to have Krista Scott-Dixon join us, together with our Fit as a Fiddle leader, Phil Soper, to learn how we can reverse the physical, mental, and performance barriers created by the pandemic. A fitting way to cap off our Maintaining Momentum series. Welcome, Krista, and Phil, please take it away.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, welcome everybody. It's great to be here online with you again. You know, early in the lockdown, we did this so often. We were every other day, it seemed, we were reaching out there with reassurance, with information, with ideas, and we didn't have much to do. I mean, we were very busy preparing to do something out there in the field, but you were under lockdown and you couldn't do much. And of course, the middle of May rolled around and things started to get busy. And then June and July, you know, we've got, depending on what part of the country you are, the volumes of business in the last couple of months that you've dealt with have been between 25 and 75% higher than they were last year. We're actually busier than we've ever been in the summer. Let that one sink in. So talk about a weird and stressful year when you were supposed to be busy. Well, right at the beginning, you're worried about your kids, you're worried about your parents, you're worried about your pets. We're worried about everybody's health, and that's very stressful. And for a lot of people, you wondered, you know, what the hell am I going to do? I'm just sitting here. Of course, we got you very busy, and you got all trained up on RLP Sphere, et cetera, and you ended up being very busy, but not busy like now. Now you are incredibly overworked. So it's like this huge wave of challenges that have been thrown at you this year, and they have physical and mental impacts. Our charity, and Krista, you study women's studies. The LePage's Shelter Foundation. The LePage Shelter Foundation is the largest foundation in Canada focused on eradicating domestic violence and supporting women and their children who fall victims to it. And sadly, during this crisis, the amount of domestic violence we've seen in this country has actually risen. So, people are working harder than they ever have, and it's showing. So I am just delighted that for the last of the Maintaining Momentum series of the summer, before we're back to school and September rolls around and we, get back to work. Okay, we never stopped, but there's this mental leap that happens in September. We thought we'd focus on you, your health, with some practical ideas on nutrition and how to manage your mental health. And with that, maybe, Krista, you could tell us how you got into this line of work. Oh, and by the way, Dr. Scott-Dixon is coming to us from beautiful Kitsilano, where I used to live way back in the day when I worked for IBM in Vancouver. And you've got quite the view there, don't you?
I do. And I was saying before I got on this call, if I had a good enough softball arm, I could actually hit the ocean from here. So it's my house, a street, another house. And apparently when Harry and Kate were, Harry and Megan were deciding whether to move to Canada, they were speculating on buying the house across the street.
Oh,
next to
cool?
Next to Chip Wilson's, the CEO of Lululemon. So that's the kind of fancy pants neighborhood Kitsilano is, for sure. Yeah, it's just wonderful. But to kind of circle back around to, I think, you're kind of curious, Phil, about kind of what my pathway into this.
How'd you get from, doing graduate work in women's studies to health and wellness?
Well, it's funny because when people hear my degrees, they think like, that's weird. Like that doesn't make any sense. And I like to layer on the weirdness by saying that my undergraduate was actually in fine arts, visual arts and film. But the reason I got interested in it was when I was doing my PhD and my master's. What happens when you go to grad school, right? I mean, grad school is good for almost nobody's health and wellness. Right. So I got really unhealthy. I gained about 50, 60 pounds. Now, to put this in perspective, I'm 5 feet tall, right? So when you're short, you just kind of go out.
It's actually hard to imagine visually. So
it's kind of a roundness, yeah. But I mean, you feel bad. And I think if you're listening to this and
your joints hurt and
everything hurts, exactly. And you just feel crummy. And, if you're listening to this and your own health habits have suffered during this time, you just feel lousy. And so I thought, like, I have to do something about this because otherwise, I was in my 20s at the time and I just thought, I have to change this. And so in the beginning, it was, my serious academics and then health and fitness in parallel. Okay. Although I did study women's health, so I got into occupational health. And so there is a little bit of a crossover, but in the beginning it was two islands, two unrelated things. But as I got more and more into it, they started to converge. And I started to see that health and fitness and wellness had a huge impact on performance. And I could look around and see what my fellow grad students were doing and feeling. And, I started to see like, oh, this is actually about performance, about sustainability, about keeping me in the game with longevity as well as possible. So I think often we think of health and fitness as like this superfluous chore that we have to do on the side.
We really should do.
Exactly, but it's kind of extra. It's like it's like cleaning out the eaves troughs, right? You'll get around to it at some point. It's kind of a nasty chore, but I really over the years started to see this as like absolutely essential for anything that we wanted to do, whether that's physical pursuits, mental pursuits, thriving in relationships, like whatever is bringing value to your life. Health and fitness kind of is like the foundation for that. So I really, over the years, started to kind of have an appreciation for that. And then I got into occupational health. And so I found my way to precision nutrition after leaving academia. So and what we know is that, women are the primary consumers of healthcare information, far and above men. The 80% of the healthcare workforce is female.
Right.
About 2/3 of the personal training clients are female. So it was funnily relevant later on. And we see this in our clients too. And even things like who does the household labor and what effect that has on your fitness. If you're
Right.
listening and you're someone who
That's
has
a good
trouble
point, Tim.
prioritizing yourself, putting your needs first, finding that time. So it's funny how everything just kind of all works together. And I ended up here. Yeah.
This audience, particularly the one, because we've got a big company. There's some close to 20, probably over 20,000 people with our administrators and management, and then our frontline practitioners. Very self-motivated, driven people. And we do lots and lots to talk about improving their productivity and performance. It's like a holy grail. How can I do more with the hours I have? We also try to talk about work-life balance, and certainly in the company, we have lots of ways for people to do, call it recreational things as part of the culture. But the ones that really get people going are the performance-focused things. If the tool you're providing to me, whether it's education or piece of software or whatever it is, can make me better at my job, I'm all in. And I think what you're saying is what we put in our mouths, what we eat, and what we do with our daily lives has a direct impact on our performance.
Absolutely. And I think I want to introduce a fact that I think we often forget about, which is that our brain is in our body, right? I think we often imagine that our mind and what brings us that
heavy organ up
performance,
there.
it is part of your body. So whatever else is happening to your body, we're not just the sort of floating disembodied brain. So whatever happens to your physical body affects your mind, which then affects your performance. So it's how you think, how you reason, how you make decisions, the level of energy that you have. All of this contributes to performance. And I think folks listening can probably relate. Like if you think of a time when your thinking was sluggish, foggy, maybe you were burned out, you were tired, maybe you're feeling that right now in 2020. Like when the physical structure is not working as well, you feel it in your performance. You cannot perform with an engine that is rusty and gunked up. So to me, this is just a really crucial point. The better my body works, the better my mind works. It is as simple as that. And the better your mind works, obviously, the better your performance is, because you can think and reason and strategize, and again, have that physical energy. And I know that real estate, it's a demanding job. Your early mornings, late nights, it's almost like being a personal trainer in the sense that you have these crazy schedules and you're running all around and you're people focused, and all of these things are dramatically
and it's full of uncertainty, rejection, doubt, and also elation, joy. So it's like, I don't know, being a professional athlete, and there's huge hills and valleys, and keeping even is a real challenge. And I know people know this, and they know they're supposed to look after themselves. Is there any statistics on what I know? One of the terms when we were talking about this session was the COVID-19. It reminded me of we used to talk about the freshman 15, first year in res. You put on 15 pounds eating all that crappy institutional food in residence that was bountiless. Have people gotten less healthy during the lockdown period?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's always that Instagram influencer that's using this time to learn Sanskrit or whatever. but the reality is that almost none of us have gotten better, Because
Right.
if you think about it, like there are now multiple stressors. I think you laid this out at the beginning of the call, right? Our kids, our parents, our family, our friends, our job, our own personal health, are just the constraints of daily life. Like there's so many things. I think of it as like a death by 1,000 paper cuts, right?
Yes.
We're embedded in so much stress. And so whatever your coping mechanisms are, you're probably going to be in them, and maybe adding some new ones you didn't even have before. Like I never used to drink really that much. And all of a sudden, I think there was that pandemic early April when all of us were just like, nothing matters anymore. I'll just have a margarita at 3 in the afternoon.
Like the Titanic,
That's right. That's right.
playing the violins, drinking the good stuff.
Totally. That's
Yeah.
right. And so I think if you're listening to this, it's really important that you have compassion for that and forgive yourself, because when human beings are under stress, they try to cope in all kinds of ways. And so whatever is happening to your body, I think we just put out an article actually on our website called Stress Bod. And there are very real changes that happen when our bodies are under stress. And most of them are not salubrious. Like most of us are not necessarily getting better. So it's definitely a thing. Now, the degree to which it's happening, I think, varies from person to person. And some people have definitely found this time of, okay, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. I have to be more creative in other things I'm doing. So some people, yes, have found opportunities here. Oh, I'm spending more time with my kids. I'm getting outside with my dog, right? So it's definitely a very diverse experience, but it's certainly the case that lots of folks are finding themselves like kind of waking up much less healthy than when they went in February, for sure. Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about nutrition itself?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways we could attack this subject. Here I am having a cup of coffee and you're drinking water. I've got my water here too.
I've got my coffee here. Yeah.
Oh, you got coffee too?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just a little, thought I'd come clean, Doc. But it is just coffee. It's not, coffee and Bailey's at well, it's a little later here, but it's still morning. No, I hear a lot about people doing, back to basics cooking. And I know both my wife and I we've got kids who are sort of a university age, so they're kind of here and kind of not. But we're doing a lot more cooking than we were, and we're not eating out, which is very sad for the food and beverage industry, of course. And I desperately feel for them. But just by the fact we're cooking, I know we're eating more nutritionally than we would if we were eating in restaurants. Even if you go not to fast food, the what catches your eye in the menu is not the the vegan dish. So is there any hope for us the sourdough bread era that we're in, that we could learn something during COVID about eating well?
Well, yeah. And I think you said an interesting word at the start of this call, which is use the word complex to describe nutrition and exercise. And that is actually only true if you look at the vast array of commercial products and messaging available. Because what we actually teach at Precision Nutrition is that let's strip away all of that and look for simplicity. Because this is real people, real lives. Again, dogs, kids, parents, like whatever. We all have lives that are very messy, very imperfect, if we can call it that. So out there is a message that this has to be judgmental, that it has to be complicated, that you can't do this and you can't do that, and this is so bad for you and blah, 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 right? Whereas what we teach is simplicity. Cook at home, eat a vegetable, get outside, get some sunshine. And the difficulty is actually not so much the knowing, it's the doing. So most of what we focus on is the doing. If you're wanting to eat more vegetables, for example, which I think we can all agree is probably a good, healthy choice, the real challenge is not knowing it, it's doing it. So really the fundamental problem that people come to us with most of the time is, I know what I should be doing, but I'm not doing it, right? So this is why our focus is really largely on behavior.
You have hundreds of heads nodding across the country right now into their monitors. People who are engaged with life and get out and mix with, professionals aren't stupid, and they've read the articles, they've seen the shows, so they have a high eat more fruit and vegetables, stay away from processed foods, minimize your red meat, all this kind of thing. So, but I think of my team, they are on the go. They may not be home when they're supposed to be, baking from scratch or cooking from scratch. How does a mobile, busy person keep their nutritional life intact? How do they do the right things when they're on the go?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I guess the big answer before I get into specifics would be focus on principles rather than specifics, right?
Okay, so it doesn't have to be kale.
No, exactly. It's like find a green thing, put it in your mouth. That's the principle, right? And so, playing this game can look all kinds of ways. And if you think about it as a game, it gets a lot more fun in the sense of like you have an objective. You can find any path to the objective that you like. So that's kind of piece number one, is really think about principles. Don't think about rules. I think we're so immersed in rules, but these are just fundamentally not helpful, right? So the game is, let's say the game is get a green thing in your mouth once a day, right? Okay, so now the green thing can be anything, right? It can be, okay, so I'll just to give you some context, I spent the last several years traveling a ton. And so COVID has been weird for me too, because it's the first time I haven't been on an airplane.
I am like, I've got a bum war in the Pearson Lounge, right? Where I sit all, and now I'm not traveling. It's weird.
It's totally weird. And I have to say, I'm not completely sad about it, because who misses sitting on an airplane? but this is the place that I'm coming from. And so one of the things I think people don't realize is that when you are on the road, there are so many more options that you don't think about. And one of them is the grocery store, right? So when I was traveling, one of the things I would do is I had my plan of attack: grocery store, box of greens, little packet of dressing, cut up baby vegetables, go to the deli counter, see what they've got. If you're feeling super hungry, one of those pre-made chickens, bring that home, rip it up. But there's lots of, I think the grocery store is really one of your best friends if you can kind of get in there and get creative.
They're everywhere, just like restaurants are everywhere.
They're next door to the fast food restaurant that you'd normally be going to. And whenever I would travel, I would Google, like, okay, where's my hotel? Where is the closest grocery store? So I have found grocery stores in like rural China, in suburban places where I had to like walk under an overpass to get there, or whatever. But there's a very good chance that there will be some kind of grocery store very close to the hotel in some kind of way. And so the grocery store becomes your fast food place. So that's
interesting.
One option.
Are the prepared meals in grocery stores any better than fast food?
Depends. It kind of depends what. But again, if you think about the principle, right, get a green thing. Oh, that could be a box of salad. That could be, the broccoli salad at the deli counter. That could be pre-washed baby vegetables. It can be lots of different things. And I think, grocery stores are now really understanding that the majority of their consumers are busy professional people who are in and out. They're not like, yes, it's nice that we're all cooking from scratch if we have the time, but that's not the reality for most people, right? So a lot of these pre-made options, if you can kind of suss them out, like, okay, the lasagna, maybe, you could do better than that, but there's so many more pre-made options. But another option is a meal delivery service, even if that's one meal a day. So even if that's like, okay, I could go to McDonald's, or I could get a meal delivery service. Someone makes me a nice healthy lunch and drops it off at my office. Boom, done. So the less thinking we have to do here, the better. And people are like, oh, but is a boxed salad okay? Yeah, if it's that, or like a Kit Kat bar, I think really don't downplay the value of convenient, healthy options that are available if you look. So wherever you're traveling, Google convenient, healthy options. You'll get meal delivery. You'll get grocery stores. You'll get menu items on fast food places. Even McDonald's has a salad, right? So you can get quite creative with even fast food menus. Yeah, you can get water for sure. And I was actually just on a cycling trip from Vancouver to Victoria, and all there is along the way are Tim Hortons and McDonald's. And you can go into a McDonald's and get a cup of ice water. You can get a salad. You can get grilled chicken. Like there's actually quite a lot that you can get at a lot of fast food places if you look at the menu and start to think,
Right.
how could I make a healthy choice here?
Right. We just a little plug for and I know these exist right across the country. We've been doing this a few years now. We get something called Chef's Plate here in Toronto, which on Monday, a cardboard box gets dropped and it had paper bags inside with your meal. And it's you have to cook it, but they take about half an hour, and depending on what you choose, you may be chopping your broccoli, or it could actually be chopped for you. Those are the 15-minute ones. But the two big benefits for it: one, they're pretty nutritious, or at least they're balanced. And secondly, we get the whole, like the kids get involved and everybody actually cooks meals together. It's kind of cool. I love it. And they're not that expensive. It's cheaper than definitely going out for not cheaper than McDonald's, but cheaper than going to Kelsey's or something like that, a casual sit-down restaurant. And the food's good. The food's really good. So, and I know they're right across North America. So try that if you tried that.
That's a great idea. And I think one thing you're kind of implicitly getting at is that this is a continuum, right? This is not all or nothing, healthy versus unhealthy. This is like incrementally clawing out little moments of healthiness into your day. So maybe your healthy option today is an apple, right? That's all you got for today. And that's fine. So we really want to be thinking about incrementally, what's a slightly better option? That's a good question to ask yourself wherever you are. What's a slightly better option on this menu? Yeah. And where do I have wiggle room? And I think folks who are in real estate understand negotiation, right? Can I go into a restaurant and negotiate myself a better deal? And a lot of the time, a lot of places, if you're nice about it, will be very happy to provide you with something like, I like this salad. This looks really good. Could I get some chicken on it? Could I get some steak on it? Could I get this on the side? Again, if you're nice about it, a lot of restaurants will kind of custom create something for you that meets requirements of being just a little bit better.
Now, what do you think about when I went through my undergrad? I was in track and field, and our track coach was a crunchy granola guy, and he was big into vegetarians. We didn't call it veganism then. And so I got on it. A couple of years, I was a vegetarian during university. And, and then life got in the way. I actually got into business, and it just became, especially back then in the late 80s, it wasn't possible. Well, it was always possible.
It was harder.
But it was more challenging. Mm-hmm. Now it's a lot easier. What do you think about veganism, vegetarianism as a nutritional life force? I've got friends on, I know that'll be on this call, who are healthy as all get out on the surface, at least, that are vegans.
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the concepts I would really want to introduce is nutritional diversity. So whenever people ask us, what's the best diet? Like, just tell me, what is the best diet, right? We'll say there isn't a best diet, because human beings all over the planet thrive on a whole variety of diets. That's true. What we see a lot with plant-based eating in particular is one person will try it and they'll love it. They feel terrific. They have so much energy. Their blood work looks amazing. They've, gotten lean and ripped. And so they'll say to their friend, you should try this. I feel terrific. You should try it. You're going to feel terrific too. And the friend tries it and they feel terrible. Health problems pop up, malnutrition,
anemic.
Yeah, exactly. So, there is no best diet that is amazing for everyone. And so really what it's about, and this is what we stress at Precision Nutrition, is look at your indicators, right? How do you feel? How do you look? How do you perform? How does your insides look? How does your blood work look? How's your energy level? How are you sleeping? How's your body composition, your level of leanness? How's your hunger? Do you like what you're eating, right? That's this collection of answers to this question is what gives us the best diet for you. Now, I will say that including more plants in your diet is probably a better idea than including fewer plants, right? Especially if they're fresh.
And, intuitively, I think everybody would probably, well, of course, there are these, I'll get the term wrong, paleo, the sort of the caveman diet.
There's the carnivore people, right? They're just like meat only. You think it was like a spectrum, right? Plants only, meat only. And then most of us kind of live somewhere in between, right?
But that can't be healthy, can it? Really?
I wouldn't
just eating
recommend
meat.
it unless you're a lion.
We have some lions. We have some lions. I know we do.
But I mean, even stuff like red meat, right? It gets such a bad rap. People are like, oh, it's so bad for you. And the fact is, you know, it's not the case necessarily if you're looking at your indicators. So, you know, red meat has its place in a healthy diet if it works for you, especially, for example, in a lot of our female athletes who need a very high absorbable iron intake so that they can do their sports.
Right.
So, you know, whenever anyone says, oh, this is the best diet, that's not the case. Now, we know that the best diet has some particular features, right? Gives us enough protein, gives us a fair number of plants, gives us enough fiber, gives us enough water, helps us control what we call our energy intake, which means it helps us eat the right amount for us rather than having, you know, when you eat like a bag of chips, it's like you ate nothing, right? So even though you ate thousands of calories, you don't feel satisfied. A good diet helps you feel satisfied. Like, you know what, that was enough for me. So there are features of good diets that are shared,
that are consistent,
but how that looks for you can be different. And you go by, again, how you look, feel, perform, how your insides look, how your outsides look, and how you are in the world.
So is it a trial and error, or is there a scientific way of discovering?
Well, I mean, we start with the kind of the basic foundation, right? We're pretty sure that if you do most of these things, you'll be in the right ballpark. But we call it outcome-based decision making. In other words, how's that working for you? Oh, I'm doing this. Cool. How's that working for you? I feel better. I feel worse. Right? So it is very iterative. There's lots of prototyping. And then often, just when you feel like you have things nailed down, something in your life might change, right? Maybe you take up a new sport. Maybe you get pregnant. Maybe you age and whatever, you know, used to be great for you 10 years ago isn't great now. So there is this kind of ongoing prototyping, dynamic trial and error process. But we really ask people to notice, like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? How are you performing? And sort of turning that question back on themselves. So rather than me just giving you a rule, I would say try this thing for 2 weeks. Just tell me how you feel. I'm curious
about you said, you know, what is your blood saying? So blood work obviously provides a lot of, but there's medical information and things, even like our skin, like our nails and that sort of thing. So your body tells a lot of stories.
Absolutely. You know, I love that you said that. Yeah, your body tells the story. So if you're listening right now, you know, or watching right now, like, take stock, right? How's my hair? How's my skin? How's my energy? How's my digestion? Do I have, again, lots of sustained energy, or is it like a big peak and then a crash? How is my sleep? You know, if you're female, how are your hormonal cycles, right? How's my pain level? How's inflammation? Like, there's tons and tons of things that you can look at and notice and change.
And of course, nutrition's a huge part of it because it's our fuel and you know, garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, we're made out of what we eat.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, if you leave a machine sitting in the rain, inactive, it will rust and decay, and our bodies are the same way, right? So what about the interplay between exercise, activity, and nutrition? How do you know you're doing the right kind of exercise? What kind of exercise can our team be doing if they're so busy and they're on the go?
I love this question. And one of the first things I would say is, look, instead of thinking about exercise, let's think about movement, right?
Okay. Yep.
This is a much bigger playing field because this can look like anything, right? Moving your body through space, anything can count. Salsa dancing, archery, you know, bowling, like walking the dog, throwing a frisbee, like anything can count if we think about it as movement. Even being in your car, like, you know, getting a few little neck stretches, like whatever works, right? So I like to think in terms of, well, let me give you something to remember, which is movement fundamentally changes the way our body works, generally for the better, right? Unless you're like at the end point of cross-country skiing to the South Pole and, you know, it's day 40 and you're starting to get a little tired and your knees are hurting. Okay. But in general, movement always changes our body for the better. Okay. So it fundamentally changes how your body uses nutrients, how it processes energy. So movement is incredibly powerful. But we don't have to just go and do a workout. Our bodies can be moving in any way we want at any time that we want, generally, right? So I like to think in terms of movement snacks. And I'll give you an example. Like my partner
Movement
drives
snacks.
movement
I think-
snacks.
Remember that one.
Teeny snacks, right? So my partner drives a bus. A lot of times he gets 2 minutes for a break, 3 minutes for a break, 10 minutes for a break, like just like no time. And he has to get back on the bus and sit on the bus, right? So what does he do? He gets out of the bus and he does, a few squats, he just swings his arms, like he just does little movement snacks. So 30
Nobody's
seconds.
Nobody's going to hijack that bus.
Like, that guy's crazy. I'm not going
to.
But, so like if you have 10 seconds, 5 seconds, right? You can move, do a little stretch, swing your arms, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So get movement wherever you can. And it's funny because there was a real estate agent in Toronto. He was legendary. He rode his bike everywhere. He didn't have a car. He rode his bike to all his real estate calls. And I always thought, that's not for everyone, but I was like, wow, kudos to that guy for upping his game. So there's lots of possibilities if you think about movement. So this can be anything. There's no best movement except what you like, what you'll do, and what you're willing to fit into your day, right? So whatever that looks like for you is awesome. And then just take it where you can get it and get creative about it, because often, what'll happen is you can say to a client, hey, listen, can we just walk a little bit while we talk about this? Can we do walking meetings? Is there some way that we can incorporate movement into what we're doing here? And I think we're so accustomed to sitting at a desk and sitting in our car and sitting at a table that we don't think that this is an option. But a lot of the time,
you're right. We always looking for a place to sit because you have to sit to talk. But it's so not true, is it?
Yeah, but as I'm selling you this house, why don't we take a little walk in the local park? Weather's beautiful. Let me point out the elementary school to you, right? Why not?
That is a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool. And I bet clients would like it too.
Very much. I mean, I've found that with my own clients, like if we do like a walk and talk with a counseling session, like A+.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Mm-hmm. One of the things I'd be curious what you think about this. I read a little piece on micro workouts, and sometimes I just don't have the time in the morning. I like to work out in the morning, so I'll go crazy for 10 minutes on the stationary bike, and even that 10 minutes, you sort of get through 3 songs, and your heart rate is up, and your body is warm, and you're sweating. And then it's over. But 10 minutes is, it's barely longer than it takes to brush your teeth. But I feel better. I don't know if it's real or if it's just convincing myself that I've done something. I don't know. What do you think about that concept?
No, it's absolutely real. And I love that micro workouts is a great way to think about it too, right? And I like that you do it in units of songs. Right? That's a fabulous thing. We always tell people, like, find your power song and do something to that power song for 3 minutes. It's absolutely real, because what's happening, blood is getting to your brain, and the stimulus of movement is telling your brain, oh, we need to make new neurons. We need to get some juice in here, right? And so it absolutely makes a huge difference. And if you're someone who struggles with concentration, attention, focus, 10 minutes of movement will earn you maybe an hour, maybe even 2 hours of focus and attention. So
that's good return on investment.
It is, and we tend to treat it as a zero-sum game, like, oh, I'm wasting 10 minutes doing this other thing when I could be spending 10 minutes on my work. But movement is a huge investment. It's like buying that no-name house in the no-name neighborhood back in the 50s when nobody wanted it, and then realizing, now it's worth several $1 million. It's absolutely an investment. It's not a cost.
So we've talked about nutrition. We've talked about movement. I love that, movement. Stay away from workouts and blah, blah, blah. Just move is good. What about putting it all together? And in this stressful world we live in, not busy enough, too busy, uncertain future, the lots of opportunity from a medical efficacy standpoint, but also lots of unknown and risk in the future. How do you set goals? How do you move forward and be positive in this kind of a world?
The framing of this is so wonderful. And I think, 2020 has really shown us that there is no script. I think often we set goals as if there were a script, right? Okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and it's going to progress in this really nice linear fashion, right? But life has never been like that, ever. It's just that 2020 has amplified that for us. And now we're really feeling it like, oh my gosh, we're completely off the script, and there never was a script. So
Right.
if you think about the populations of people that are really good with uncertainty, I think of like first responders, military personnel, like they have nurses, right? They have no idea what their job is going to involve on a daily basis. It could be anything. And so in environments of uncertainty, micro goals like micro workouts are typically the best one. And so you can certainly have a general objective, right? Like a kind of a broad target that you're trying to hit, or a horizon
Right.
point that you align around. And a lot of those should really be kind of internal goals. Like, this is the kind of person that I am, and this is what I think would be good for me to do in the world. So it's having an abstract external one is not always ideal, but most of the time, most of your attention is going to be on these micro goals. So they fit within a larger strategy, right? The kind of person I am, or the kind of path I want to carve out in the world. But then most of the time you're being very tactical. What is next? What is next? What is next? Next action. And you're kind of, sometimes you pop your head out of the water and just check that you're still swimming in the right direction, right? But most of the time it's next action, next action, next action. And I think that ambitious goal setting is not always the best approach, I think, in times like this, because it's funny, Phil, when I learned that we were going to be having this conversation, I did some research and I found a talk that you filmed in February of 2020 about what was going to happen in the real estate market. Right? And I'm sure in February, folks had all kinds of goals about what was going to happen. Here we are. So setting micro goals is really, really crucial. So that can be within a day, right? Today, here's what's going to happen for me. Pre-commit to that. It's called pre-commitment in behavior change. And we know that if you pre-commit to something, especially if you do some action around like ensuring it's going to happen, like I'm going to put out my shoes, my walking shoes, and get 10 minutes of walking today. I pre-commit to that at 2 p.m. Walking shoes are out. Here we go. I've booked it in my calendar. You're much more likely to do it. So look at your day, sit down with your calendar, look at your day and say, what is realistic for me today? On a scale of 1 to 10, what can I feel like I can do, like 9 or 10 out of 10 confident that I can do today? And that's your micro goal. So I know we love ambitious goals, but the time don't.
It
don't
sort of sounds a little bit, have you bumped into, heard about the James Clear's book, Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits, very much. And a lot of the thinking in behavioral change is very much like this, that I think in North America, we love ambitious goals, right? But the actual achievement of them is an everyday thing. And I mean, you can think about it as like home maintenance, right? Home maintenance is not a glamorous thing a lot of the time. It's not the huge, amazing renovation. You're chipping away at it a lot of the time.
Right.
But that's usually what yields the biggest return in terms of the quality of the dwelling that you're in. It's not, oh my gosh, the real estate agent is coming. I got to throw a pillow in front of this hole in the wall. So yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Like incremental. Yeah, get grandma's quilt. Just shove a plant in front of that, right? So I mean, you can really think about that kind of incremental maintenance. It's a very similar kind of concept.
Very, very cool. This has been so fascinating. I want to, and as with many fascinating discussions, time flies.
Mm-hmm.
I do want, occasionally we have people that are just dying to ask our guests something. And I know Kelly wanted to introduce a little bit more about your company and how your company works with LePage, Precision Health. So Kelly, anything from the field, from our viewers? And if not, how do we work with Dr. Scott-Dixon's business, Precision Health?
We have a really great question here too, and something I've been dying to know personally myself. And this one's from Anastasia, and she's asking, I've been hearing a lot about intermittent fasting in these past couple of months. What are your thoughts on this type of fasting in relation to energy, the body, the mind, alignment, productivity? How is it affecting us? Is it a good thing for us? Is it going to help us lose weight and feel better and more energized and motivated?
Yeah, I think, first of all, intermittent fasting is a fancy way of saying sometimes you don't eat. So let me demystify intermittent fasting. And we actually just finished a complete like specialized course on intermittent fasting. So I've actually been like in the research literature very deeply on intermittent fasting. It goes back to the sort of best diet idea. There are a handful of people who love intermittent fasting. They find that it does benefit them. They do get more mental clarity. Generally, that's from adrenaline. So you get a little shot of adrenaline and you think, oh, this is tremendous. Like, so a lot for a small percentage of people, they do genuinely thrive on it. They tend to be male, they tend to be younger, and they tend to be naturally leaner, kind of more ectomorphic, as we would say, is sort of the I think of them as like the whippets, the long, lean people.
Yep.
So
Long
they
distance
tend
runners sort of idea.
exactly, right? So they tend to naturally not be hungry a lot of the time anyway. So intermittent fasting is a great choice for them because they feel good, they perform well, sustainably, they seem to do okay on it. There's no long-term issues over several months. So that for a small percentage of people, it does seem good. For a much larger percentage of people, it seems to cause problems, especially if you consider that not eating for a long period of time is a stressor on the body, right? So now think about all of the things in your life that are stressful to you. Stress on stress on stress on stress on stress on stress. And now you're asking your body to perform without nutrients in it, right? So for most people, most of the time, for most goals, intermittent fasting isn't necessarily a good fit. But what I would say is that occasionally, purposely pausing on eating or skipping a meal really does help you notice hunger cues, appetite cues. Because a lot of time what happens is we eat when we feel like we should. We don't know if we're hungry or not. It's like, well, it's dinner time, or I should grab something between these clients. So we get very out of touch with our hunger cues. So intermittent fasting can definitely be done, if it's occasional, can be a really good way to get you in touch with, oh, this is what it feels like to be physically hungry. And one of the things we teach is like, eat when you're physically hungry, which sounds so, again, simple, but a lot of us have gotten out of touch with it. So I think that the claims about intermittent fasting are much greater than the reality of it. If you're metabolically very unhealthy, there's a good chance it will improve you a little bit. But if you're already reasonably healthy, it's not going to make you awesome, like people claim. And especially if you're female, we know that women do not seem to respond as well as men. So the best candidate for intermittent fasting is usually a younger guy in his 20s,
A skinny,
who's naturally lean.
Skinny kid.
Yeah, because they just don't eat anyway.
There we go.
Well, but for most folks, it's not a great idea.
Not good for you.
Sorry, guys.
Well, and behaviorally, what we find is that a lot of people do intermittent fasting anyway. They skip breakfast,
right?
Small lunch, right, on the road, gobbled in your car. And then what happens? They come home and they eat the fridge, right? So you want to, when you're evaluating any kind of dietary plan, you want to look at, okay, what is the effect 6 hours from now, 12 hours from now, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, right? It's not just what I'm doing in this moment, but how does this affect me long-term? So just notice that in your own life.
Right.
Right. And I guess fad diets in general are something to ring the caution bell on, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, ketogenic dieting is the same thing, and that's been around since the 20s and 1920s, like the other 20s and before. And I think you always want to be skeptical when you hear, oh, this is the next big thing. This magically makes your body burn fat and add muscle. The reality is, much like in real estate, like there's good foundations and there's shoddy construction, right? Like, and the fundamental principles of good nutrition, we know them. They haven't changed. There's no big secret. There's no big conspiracy. There's no magical superfood out there. There's only foundational principles that, if done consistently, will get you healthy, will get you lean, will, make you feel better. But there's nothing undiscovered out there, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved at the beginning, you said something that really clued into me because I've lived in Asia, I've lived in Europe. People eat very different things all around the world. and you see healthy, fit people and unhealthy, unfit people everywhere we go, despite the Mediterranean diet, despite the Asian fish heavy diet. You get a bell curve of people in very, very different eating styles.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know how the body works. Like, in terms of these kind of biochemical principles, like no one has invented something that fundamentally violates the laws of physics and biochemistry. Right? So the whole like, you can eat whatever you want and not gain weight, it doesn't work that way. Right. So if you are listening now and you think, okay, if I were to write down 5 to 10 behaviors that I'm pretty sure are healthy, what would they be? And my guess is that everyone would have kind of a similar list, right?
Right.
Again, eat adequate protein, water, fiber, eat some plants, get your sleep, get some fresh air and sunshine, have good relationships. Like these are the things that make dietary patterns work. So the details of them are not, as relevant to worry about, or there's no one single diet that is the best diet for everybody.
I've got my fingers crossed for the what do they call it? Laboratory protein, where they're going to create Chilean sea bass in a test tube, but then do it on I saw a documentary in our hot dogs festival on it. It's fascinating stuff. Fascinating. Same texture, same taste, but you don't have to kill the planet in producing it. Anyway, back to you, Kelly.
Awesome. We've had a question about sleep and the sleeping disorders and how they affect our health, and any advice you have for, getting some healthy sleep. What do we need to do? How important?
It's a great question. And I suspect, in part is kind of linked to the one that comes underneath it, which is how about coffee? and let me do a quick one on coffee. We know that there's genetic differences in how people respond to caffeine. So for some people, coffee is great. For other people, not so great. So you can know this with a genetic test, or you can just go by how you feel. But for a lot of people, over-consuming caffeine is one reason why they're not sleeping. So I think people feel a lot of pressure to get sleep. We're always hearing, oh, you should get this much sleep and so on. But we encourage people to really think about the behaviors around their sleep. So if someone comes to us and says, I'm having trouble sleeping, we kind of sit down and do like a forensic analysis and say, okay, tell us about the 4 hours leading up to that sleep. What is happening in your life? What are your stressors? What are you doing in your evenings? What is your pre-bed ritual is what we call it. How are you dialing down? Because one of the things to think about is your brain, just like first thing in the morning, you can't go from 0 to 100 first thing in the morning, right? Like the first minute you're out of bed, you couldn't be doing a complex real estate deal. You need time to wake up. And it's the same thing in reverse. Your brain can't go from 100 to 0. So if you're someone who likes to work late and is always like thinking about stuff and answering emails on your way to bed, you're not going to sleep because your brain is just like, bzzz, right? So really look at what is happening around your sleep, and are you getting light during the day? Because our sleep-wake cycles, one of the things that regulates them is dark at night, bright during the day when we should be awake. So to go back to the movement snacks idea, if you can get outside, even for just a lap of the block during the middle of the day and get that sun in your eyeballs, that will actually help you sleep better at night because your brain knows, oh, we're in a light dark cycle. Okay, cool. I know when to start shutting down. So, I mean, the question is complex, right? If someone has a sleep disorder that's, significant, going to a sleep clinic is super, super useful because there's all kinds of reasons for not having good sleep. But you can start with having some very basic sleep behaviors that can kind of like improve your chances of getting a better sleep.
Cool.
Thank you for that. Now, you obviously are a wealth of information. The organization that you work for is focused on supporting people to have a better lifestyle through health and nutrition initiatives. So how could you help our Royal LePagers achieve the same? What can you do for our folks?
Well, I think I'd flip the question back around and I would say, what do your folks want, need, desire, seek? Because I think that answer is going to be different for everyone, right? Some people may say, you know what, I just need help with a routine, some planning, some structure, some systems. For me, it's very tactical. Cool, we can help with that. We can build you the systems. For other people, it's more like, oh, I need some of the mindset stuff. I have good systems, but I'm an emotional eater, or I'm a stress eater, right? Okay, cool. For some people, it's the mindset piece. For some people, it might be a nutrition piece, like, oh, can we boost this, bring this down so that your body functions better? So, that's why we're called precision nutrition, because we look at, what do you need? What do you want? Where do you want to go? What can you manage? How do you want to live? What trade-offs do you want to make in your life? Okay, cool. We'll start with that. And we build very, very simple, doable, sustainable practices to help you get where you're going, wherever that is.
So how can we engage? And what do you have for us that you can share? You're going to do something special for us.
Well, I think that our friend Jason might have something to share with us. Can we bring Jason Crow in here?
Jason Crow, who happens to be a Torontonian. There you go. We've got
also a Torontonian. Yeah.
British Columbia, Ontario, coast to middle.
Yeah, we're going right across the board. So we absolutely have something special for the Royal LePage community. Like Dr. Scott-Dixon said throughout the conversation, I think when it comes down to it, it's not necessarily just the knowing, it's the doing. And that's kind of what we do at Precision Nutrition. So our company has a number of different products, but fundamentally we only do two things. We coach people on nutrition and lifestyle management, and we teach others how to coach people on nutrition and lifestyle management. So kind of looking at the former there, we have an offer, and Kelly, if I can share my screen, which I think I should be able to do.
Yeah, bottom. There you go.
Can everybody see that?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So what we've put together is we have a product called Enterprise Coaching, and essentially what it's designed for is large organizations like Royal LePage, so that we can bring the size and scale of our PN coaching product to organizations. So what we've done special is if you go to precisionnutrition.com/RLP, it'll take you to a page where you can leave your name and email address, and someone from my team will reach out to you this week to talk about our program and how it works, and exactly like Krista said earlier, just talking about what you really need and how we can build something for you. We've done this with over 100,000 people around the world over the last 15 years. And as you can see on the slide there, we're going to build something customized just for you.
Excellent.
That's wonderful. 25% off is a great offer. Thank you so much for.
Yeah, no sweat at all.
Family. Wonderful.
All right. Now, let's see. We just have to unshare Jason's screen.
I can absolutely do that.
And just while Jason's unsharing, that you might have seen the words deep health on that slide and be wondering, what does deep health mean? One of the things we really focus on at Precision Nutrition is the idea of lots of different domains of life, right? Mind, body, relationships, what's around you, as all contributing to being healthy. So it's not just what you eat or how you move or it's all of these things together. So that's what we mean by deep health, is kind of thriving in all different domains.
Well, this has been really, really cool. I want to thank you for taking the time, for being, it wasn't preachy ever. It was inspiring always. What a great hour. And Kelly, wouldn't you say a nice change from talking about dollars and cents and strategy, and this was good. It was talking about us, about collectively, and I'm sure a lot of people have ideas for not just themselves, but their kids, their spouses, their loved ones. So thank you, Jason. Thank you, Krista. It was really great having you on board, and we look forward to working with Precision Health in the future to keeping the Royal LePage family fit, healthy, engaged, and ultimate high performance guys.
Awesome.
Thank
you, everybody. Thank you, our guests, Jason and Krista, today. Thank you so much. Everybody stay healthy, be fit, be well.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.